So, uh, welcome to the webinar on business, entrepreneurship, and management. So, the idea of today's session is to talk about essentially three things. One, what is this field of management? What are the top options in terms of colleges that you have if you're looking at, say, a BBA, MBA sort of a program after your school? And thirdly, very briefly about something about aptitude tests, right? So these are three things that I'll broadly cover. My name is Rahul. So, why is management one of the most sought after options for students today after class 12th or after the graduation? The reason is because when we talk of management is a holistic knowledge about business, so to say, right? So, when you go through a management program, you learn how to run a business, you understand what are the different parts of the business, how they come together. Essentially, you learn how to add value. So the skill set that you get is something that you can take to a lot of different areas, right? For example, someone who works for the finance department of, say, an FMCG company will find application in the field of hospitality as well, because even a hotel or a travel business will require someone who has knowledge of finance, right? Similarly, a marketing person will find application in different sectors in different industries, right? And therefore, the skill set that you get post your MBA or during your MBA is a skill set that is very portable. It can be taken to different areas, and it is holistic in nature, wherein you are not constrained to a single field, right? And therefore you'll see people finding success in completely different areas, which obviously are not related to each other. For example, I'll show you some photos on screen. If you can help me identify who these people are. Okay, so this is the first photo, the first person. If you can tell me who this lady is. There is a hint in the photograph as well. So this is Miss Chanda Kochar, right? She used to head one of the biggest banks in the country. The second person here. Now, this person is closer to her heart because she used to head a company called Pepsi, right? Yes, so this is Miss Indra Nui, right? The third person, now anyone who follows cricket would know who this gentleman is. This is Mr. Harsha Bhogle, one of the finest commentators or analysts that we have in the country right now. And then the fourth picture, I'm sure I'll get a lot more response on this. Anyone who knows who this person is? So this gentleman is Mr. Chetan Bhagat. And what does Mr. Chetan Bhagat do? What is he famous for? Of course, he's written bestsellers. He's a very successful author, and then eventually decided to become a judge in a show called Nach Balliya, right? So if I look at these four people, so one heads a bank, one used to head a bank, one used to head an FMCG company, one is a cricket commentator, the fourth person does whatever he wants. Now these four people have something in common. Apart from being very successful in what they do, all of them have formal management education. So all of them are MBAs. Three of them from IIMs in India, one of them from abroad. So what I'm trying to say is management is a skill set that you can take with you to different places. It tells you how to add value. It tells you what sells in the market, and therefore is something which is in a lot of demand. So students who go into IITs eventually go in for their MBAs to the IIMs. There are students who do their graduation from Delhi University, eventually go in for an MBA to the IIMs. You will find CAs going for MBAs. You'll find doctors going for MBAs as well. Sought after field of choice in terms of career, in terms of future in India, definitely, and not just India, across the globe. Okay. If I have to talk of careers in management, again, just to tell you where you can end up, the words that you'll come across would be something like, say, marketing management. So what is marketing management? To put it into simple words, the look and feel of what you use today is essentially marketing management, right? So what the product should look like, what is the customer requirement. So the entire market research, the packaging, the planning, the branding of it, the message that goes across with it, the value proposition that the product delivers, the strategy of taking it to the market, everything becomes part of marketing management. The sales, the after sales, etc. Then there would be financial management. Now, financial management could be as basic. When I say basic, I mean commonplace, as corporate finance. So every company has to have a financial department, and it could be as lucrative, so to say, as investment banking. So, the Wolf of Wall Streets that we see, those kind of roles. So people who work with mergers and acquisitions, high net individuals, top investments. So those will be the people who are working in the investment banking domain. So that could be financial management. You could have operations management. Operations management is actually getting things done eventually. So right from the point where the raw material starts to how it reaches your factory or your company, how it is organized there, finally turned into a product and then delivered to the customer, stored, all of the supply chain, the logistics is what operations management will cover. You could be someone who's actually executing it, or you could be someone who's planning it for different companies. Then comes IT management. The fact that we interact today is because of IT, right? So the entire infrastructure, the services that will be offered in intra-company, inter-company, the implementation of it, the maintenance of it, all of that comes under the ambit of IT management. Then is HR management. Again, one of the most important roles in a company. We would know this because of the memes that we keep coming across in human resource management. But in today's day and time, the biggest resource of a company is human resource. And managing it becomes part of the HR management. So right from hiring, firing, compensation, training, succession planning, all of that comes in the ambit of human resource management. And in all of these fields, you can also look at startup opportunities, a specific service that you would want to offer, right? Then there is data analytics, probably the future of management, definitely something that is very strong today as well. Right from the fact or the time when you log into your Gmail account and you see that ad at the top, that is driven by data, to probably you booking a flight in an airplane, the price that you see is driven by data, right? Because we generate a huge data footprint right now, this data is then stored, analyzed to look for trends and see how businesses can profit from that data. So you could have roles both in both the fields, the technical field where you're processing the data, or the consultant or analyst field where you're taking that data, looking for trends and finding practical solutions for companies, right? So just to give you a glimpse, these are the kind of roles that you can look at. But please understand, management is not something that operates in a void. Even if you are, say, a marketing management, you would have to have knowledge of finance operations, and you would be interacting with these parts of the business as well, right? But practically speaking, if I ask you what is management per se, anyone who's done business studies would tell me that management is an art and a science. It is necessary for organized life in business. It is a set of principles, has 4 functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. All of this is right as it is. But if you ask me what is management, for me, management simply is getting things done in an efficient and effective way. Efficient meaning using the least amount of resources. Effective meaning the output has to be as close to the desired output as possible, right? As long as that happens, it is good management. Therefore, if I have to tell you how management can actually affect your life, I have an example of a product which is very, very dear to us today, our cell phone. Okay. Now, if you look at the cell phone market in India, not the service provider, but the handset, maybe about 14 years ago, 2007-ish, Nokia and BlackBerry were market leaders, right? So BlackBerry was playing on safety. They had something called as a BlackBerry Messenger, and for some reason, their chats never got leaked. Okay, so it was decoded, encoded, some coded, I don't know, but yeah, it was safe. So that was BlackBerry's USP. Nokia, on the other hand, was doing brilliant stuff. So they were building hammers in the name of phones. This is the indestructible phone. I'm sure you would find this one lying into your house also somewhere. And they were making these beautiful items in the name of phones. Look at the shapes, color. So the picture that you see here, all of these phones are actually production phones from Nokia, right? They were being sold in the Indian market or even the global market. Things were fine. Nokia at that point in time had a market valuation of about $300 billion. 2007, a simple presentation happens. So this man who never really changed his turtleneck had a presentation and told us, the customers, that you don't realize, but what you need is touch phones or touch screens. Samsung said, fine, you go ahead, you make a phone, we'll just copy it. Micromax said, fine, you do whatever you want, we'll get it done in China, sell it very cheap in India, right? In the next 4 years, the market had completely changed. By 2010-11, Nokia's market cap had dropped to $6 billion. It had become 1/50th of what it was. Present day, BlackBerry and Nokia do not exist in the form that they were. right? Now, all of these are business calls or management calls. If you talk of Apple coming out with iPhone, probably there was a marketing team which did good market research to understand that we have the technology and people will adopt a touchscreen phone. Samsung took a strategic call. Samsung and Nokia, both the companies could have gone the same way, but Samsung took a strategic call and said, okay, what Apple is doing probably is something that will take us to the future. Nokia decided to stick with what they were doing, right? That had consequences. Micromax probably had a good operations team in place, and they realized they could minimize costs, basis operations, and therefore could have a profitable business, right? So all of these decisions probably were taken at the management level. Maybe an MBA or a team of MBA sitting and deciding what could be the way forward, right? So what I'm trying to say is, management is a field where you will be solving real life problems and creating an impact, good or bad. I mean, that time will tell. But yes, you'll be creating an impact. So if you're someone who is creative, you have a goal in mind, you're a problem solver, management definitely makes sense for you, right? If you're someone who's not decided, even then management makes a lot of sense for you, because if you get into this field of BBA, MBA, you have to make your final decision as to what you will do about 4 years from now. So assuming that you're a class 12 student and will be going into college next year, you have about 4 years to decide what specialization you do, because you specialize or do your specialization in the second year of your MBA. By then you would have worked in different fields and seen what works in the real world. You would have probably done a marketing project, you would have probably done an internship in finance, and therefore would be in a very good position to decide what you eventually want to do. When we talk of entrepreneurship, is management required, or formal education in management mandatory for entrepreneurship? The answer obviously is a no. Right? But because again, the moment I say this, I'm sure a lot of names crop up, which of people who are successful entrepreneurs, but they did not have a management degree or formal education management, and it is natural. But what we do miss here is a lot of names which failed because they did not know the basics of management. If I have to actually give you an example, Nikola Tesla, sorry, he was a huge inventor, and he had invented a lot of things for that we currently use. But the point is, probably if he had good marketing, or of course, I'm not saying that he did what he did because he was not a good marketer, but what I'm saying is, even that kind of invention or that kind of technology would have required good marketing to make it a financial success, right? When you talk of entrepreneurs who do not have formal education, you also have to think of people who actually have formal management background and how it has helped them. So what I'm saying is, of course, when you want to get into entrepreneurship, it is your idea that counts. It has to be something that is that has market appeal, and therefore, and only then will it sell. The second most important thing in entrepreneurship is your persistence, because things do not work out at the first instance. You have to persist. You have to take that fall and stand up if you eventually want to become a successful entrepreneur. But the formal education management will definitely go a long way in ensuring that you eventually do succeed, because you will have the knowledge. When I say knowledge, I mean both the soft skills and the technical knowledge to make businesses work. You will have networks, right? So imagine you looking for a venture capitalist, and you try to get in touch with the company, and probably realize that a friend of yours is working for that company. He's the person who has to take the call, right? You will always know where to look up when you want a specific resource, because your friends, your batchmates, your seniors, your juniors would be working in these top companies. Forbid you need a backup option, these networks will come into play again, right? Also, because the format of a MBA BBA program is such that you end up doing a lot of live work. That is, all the study that you do is based on cases. So there's a case study method. You do projects, you do internships. You will have a lot of practical experience, and therefore you would have the chance of making mistake before actually getting into your own thing. And of course, as I said, the safety net is definitely there. So if entrepreneurship is something that you're looking at, an MBA definitely can make a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, in my college, in Ahmedabad, you have a entrepreneurship cell, so an incubator rather, So once you're done with your MBA, you get 1 year in the incubator. So you can use the infrastructure, you can take help from professors and whatever, what the resources are available. If things don't work out for you in the 1 year, you get the opportunity to sit for placements in the next year's batch, right? So that is the kind of safety net that these colleges actually promote, or that and that you'll actually get. If entrepreneurship is something that you're looking at, an MBA could make a lot of sense for you. Okay. But as I keep saying, I have repeatedly used the word MBA, and you are school students. So why does this make sense for you? For a long time, there were not very good options available for a BBA program. But now IIMs are offering 5-year integrated programs for students after 12th. So after 12th, you get into an IIM. You're there for 5 years, you do your BBA, MBA, you pass out, right? There is no need to go for a separate master's after that. All of these are professional courses. And the best thing is they're open for all. So irrespective of the subjects that you have in class 11th and 12th, you can apply for these programs and get into these programs, right? Definitely opportunities are something that you get. So which are these colleges? IIM Indore has been running the IPM program, the integrated program in management, 5 years after class 12th. For some time now, they have five or six batches have already passed out from IIM in the reputed program in the industry as well. Last year, IIM Rohtak also started this program. And this year, IIM Ranchi, Bodh Gaya, and Jammu. These three have also started offering this program. So now there are 5 IIMs which are offering an integrated program in management, the 5-year program. They have their entrance tests. IIM Indore will have the IP MAT Indore paper. IIM Ranchi will accept the score of the same paper, or you can also give SAT and get and apply to IIM Ranchi. IIM Rohtak has its own test. Bodh Gaya and Jammu will have a combined test, which will be called JIPMAT, right? So this will be conducted by the NTA. Eligibility typically is 60% in class 10th and 12th. There is no restriction of the subjects that you have in 11th or 12th. Apart from the written test, invariably there is an interview. Indore has an interview, so does Rohtak, so does Ranchi. For Bodh Gaya and Jammu, the other criteria that are considered for admission are your 10th and 12th marks. There are some points for gender diversity in Ranchi and Jammu as well. So if you look at the last row, you'll see the entire selection process for each college, right? Now, why does this program make sense? As an MBA, you enter the workforce at a higher level, and therefore you have lesser competition. When I say competition, I don't mean it is easier for you. What I'm saying is the number of people with you is lesser, and therefore you have more opportunities of making it to the top, right? IIMs have very good brand equity. I really don't need to sell that point. The third thing that works in the favor of this program is technically there is an exit route. So if you open the IIM Indore website, it calls itself a dual degree program. So they're calling the first 3 years as a BA program because the selection of courses is really good. So you don't only have the BBA courses, you also have statistics, you have psychology, there is sociology. There's a good mix of colleges. So we've called it a BA for the first 3 years and then the MBA for the next 2 years. The classes for the MBA for the IPM students and the students who have come to IIM Indore only for the 2-year MBA happen together. The placements happen together, right? And therefore the IPM MBA is as good as the usual or the traditional MBA that students come to IIM Indore for. Because it is a dual degree program, technically you have an exit route after 3 years. So after 3 years, if you write CAT and you get a better IIM, you can make that switch as well, right? Because when we're talking of careers, placement by default becomes something that is important. These are figures that you can verify by yourself as well. IIM Indore claims to have an average package of 19 lakhs per annum. Rohtak, Ranchi, 13 and 15. Bodh Gaya and Jammu, being relatively new colleges at this point in time, have an average of about 11.2. For someone who's in class 12th, 11th right now, if you decide to join, say, IIM Jammu, IIM Jammu by then would be another 7 years old, right? So these numbers will definitely be higher. Another important aspect is the competition. Right now, because till last year there were only 2 colleges who were offering this program, the number of takers for this program is about 80,000. This is the number for the IPM Indore paper. If you want to get into IIM after your graduation through CAT, 2.3 lakh students write CAT. And if you look at the 12th class passouts with whom you'll be competing for the other colleges, the number of 12th class passouts in India only through CBSE is 12 point something lakh. For all the other boards included, the number crosses 1 crore, right? So the amount of competition that you face is probably lesser. Also, at this point in time, to get into IIM Indore, you do not have to have good 10th or 12th marks. I'm not saying you should not. You definitely should work on your class 12. What I'm saying is there is no specific weightage to it. But if you want to get into an IIM after CAT, your entire profile is evaluated. So there is a possibility where you have a very good percentile, but you do not get an interview call because your 10th marks, your 12th marks, or your graduation marks were not up to, were not good enough. Okay. Apart from these colleges, if you're looking for a 3-year program, there are good options available. Symbiosis University is one, Narsi Monji is one, and there is Delhi University as well. So there's a college in DU called as Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies, has one of the best placements as far as DU colleges are concerned. So DU has a test called DU JAT, DU Joint Admission Test. They offer through that exam you can get into DU for the BMS and BFIA programs, right? The only thing is for the Delhi University DU JAT, you have to have maths and English in 12. So maths is a mandatory subject. But again, someone who's looking for finance as a future option, BFI is a very, very good program, one of its kind, a niche program. And BMS also gives you good placement options after you've done your BBA, the 3-year program. Definitely something which is very good market reputation, right? And therefore a good experience. If I talk of the exams in detail, most of these exams are aptitude exams. What is an aptitude exam? It will have verbal ability, maths and reasoning. English, maths and reasoning. Some of them might have a GK as well. Very broadly speaking, about 100 odd questions to be answered in 2.5 hours. That is what it is. Typically, there is negative marking as well, right? What is the cutoff? As a general rule, in a exam which is not very high difficulty level, right? For example, a GIPMAT or a SET or an IIM Rohtak, the cutoff could be around 60%. So in the SET examination out of 150, if you have a score of 90, 95, there is a very good chance you'll clear the exam. In an exam which is of higher difficulty level, say the IPM Indore or the DU JAT, the cutoff will drop down to about 45 to 50% marks. So the IPM exam, which is of 100 questions for 400 marks, even if you score about a 160, 170, there is a very good chance that you'll actually clear the exam, that you will have good options available after for you after class 12, right? When I say options, you would know about colleges that offer the law program, the 5-year law program, their aptitude test. The ones that I've mentioned to the IPM, BBA colleges. If you're looking to get into mass comm, if you're looking to get into hotel management, if you're looking to get into some of the BCom programs as well. So there are lots of colleges which have an aptitude test as the selection criteria. Post your graduation, again, there's a very good chance that you'll end up writing an exam like this. SAT, for instance, is an aptitude test, right? So what are these aptitude tests? They are basically 10 standard maths and English, in some cases general awareness. But the idea is to check your ability to apply concepts, right? Your ability to think logically and your ability to make decisions. Because in a 100-question paper, probably the cutoff or what you have to score to clear the exam is about 60. To score 60, you don't have to attempt more than 70% of the questions. If you are able to choose those correct questions in the limited amount of time, chances are you'll do well, right? So understanding what your strength is and what your weakness is, and accordingly applying that in the exam is what you have to do. And that is the challenge of an aptitude test. You don't have to be an expert in English. You definitely don't have to be an expert in maths. You just have to know which questions to do, which ones to leave, right? So that is the most important thing. Also, these are MCQ tests. So the answers are always in front of you. The MCQ, I mean multiple choice question. The answers are in front of you. You just have to be smart enough to spot the answer, right? So this is a different test than what you have been probably giving in school. In terms of syllabus, in English, the syllabus is reading comprehension, sentence correction, grammar, vocabulary, etc. In maths, which sometimes is the problem area, the syllabus is percentages, ratios, time, speed, distance, number system, algebra, geometry, modern maths. Anyone who struggles with maths, please understand, if you're able to do the first 3 topics, in any aptitude paper, at least 40% of the questions will be from these 3 topics. If the paper is easy, almost 60% of the questions will be from these topics, right? So even if you do this, there's a very good chance you'll clear the sectional cutoff, score a good score in English, and you might actually clear the overall cutoffs. Okay, you can get in touch with us if you want to know more about this field. We have centers in Lucknow.
and I am the founder of an organization called Innate Pro. Along with that, I'm also the state president for Startup Innovation Cell of CIMSME. I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you, students of Martiniere College. Topic of today, entrepreneurship and startup. Startup, the name rings a bell. In the recent times, this has been one of the most popular words that everybody wants to read about or hear about. All of you young minds there, have a different idea or have your own version or have your own aspiration and dream of starting a startup and becoming an entrepreneur. And the names of the company that come to your mind once you hear startup are Oyo, Ola, Uber, Amazon, Flipkart, massive companies, and they all started with an idea, unconventional idea. That is what startup is all about. It's one of the most unconventional models of doing business. The topic is breaking the myths, startup, entrepreneurship, and the tagline is students with an idea. Believe me, the idea is not restrictive to any age or stage of life. It can come to you any moment, any time. You already would have had so many ideas in your mind. And all of you would be thinking that how do I convert that idea into a successful entrepreneurship organization? Let's find out what it takes and what we need to do. Startup as a business model is one of the most unconventional models of doing business. It breaks all the normal rules that are applied to doing business in terms of financial support, in terms of the way you do your business. Well, it all starts with an idea and its utility for people, but it's all in your perception. There's no physical, because it's never been done earlier. Most of these startups you see, thinking out of the box, a new idea has never been tried earlier. Entrepreneurship or a startup is like you're creating your own path of what you want to do in the future. It's not a road which is traveled frequently by somebody else, because if somebody has already traveled there, it will not work for you. It's no more a startup. It's no more thinking out of the box. It's no more a different aspect of doing business. To start with, what are the 5 basic aspects to succeed as an entrepreneur or succeed as a startup? There are 5 P's. The first, purpose. You need to have a purpose. Why you want to do it, what you're going to gain out of it, what is the value addition you're going to do to the society or to your customer. The purpose has to be absolutely clear, crystal clear. Persistence, the second most important virtue or the second most important P out of the 5. Persistence is a key, because if you give up, everything finishes. So you need to keep that persistence on. People, any business model, startup, entrepreneurship, end of the day, you're creating a new program, your new service or a product. It has to be consumed by people. It has to be consumed by somebody. That's how you make it a commercial success. People are one of the most important contributors. So when you're thinking about that idea, apply it for people. Patience. If you look at the 4th P, you see that spider making a web. A lot of patience to put it together. You cannot dream or achieve your dream and become a success overnight. We read about these companies or hear about these companies, but there are a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of rejections they have been through by the time they arrived at their success platforms. Profit is the 5th and the most important out of the 5 P's. If you are starting a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, End of the day, you need to make good money for yourself and for the people who have invested in your business. Profitability should be right there from the day you start with an idea. It needs to be measured from that time. Can it really be profitable? This is a very important slide. It basically gives you a visibility of the core skills required to be an entrepreneur or to be a successful startup. Thinking out of the box, we all know. Good idea, out of the box thinking. But is that idea finding a gap? Or is it just a brilliant idea which is you are very passionate about? End of the day, you being the only consumer of your idea cannot make it a commercial success. You need to find people. It needs to reach masses. It needs to scale up. Out of the box thinking, but with a focus that you're filling a gap that exists. Risk taking, because it's never been done before, so it involves a lot of risk, and you should be ready to take that risk. Observation. You should be very observant, because the more observant you are, you're going to notice changes, positive or negative, and take decisions accordingly. Critical outlook to life. Analytical, critical. Why? How? Why not? It always helps whenever you are traveling a path never traveled before. It will help you make decisions and judgments. Communication. This is the core. Communication is the core for any success in life, or even living the life the way you are living. Any idea, any talent, any emotion, anything that you have, if it is not expressed properly, if it doesn't reach the others, it's a waste. It only remains within you. And if what remains within you, you cannot convert that into a commercial success or even tell the world what you have. Communication is the core. And it's not about speaking English. It is much beyond that. It's being able to reach out to somebody. High AQ. AQ is the latest buzzword in the corporate circle. Adversity quotient, you heard about IQ, you heard about emotional quotient. Adversity quotient is the core to succeed as an entrepreneur, because it is the ability to handle stress and pressures. Any business, any entrepreneurship, any startup would have a lot of obstacles because it's a new road you're creating for yourself. You cannot do away with those obstacles, but you can actually enhance your ability to face those obstacles and win over them. Developing your AQ is very important, and there are ways to do it. You can ask me later. Financial literacy, one of the most important aspects. If you're not literate about financial aspects, believe me, a wonderful idea, a wonderful product can get you into losses. So you need to have your financial planning, financial outlook, the way you plan and when you need money, from where you need money, how much you need money, how much profit you'll make out of that kind of investment, what's the return on investment. Financial literacy is very important. Networking is the core skill to do business in the future world. Without networking, nothing works, because most of the services are applicable to people, and you need to network and collaborate. That's the next point. Believe me, a lot of us believe it's my idea, I can make it. You have an idea, but to convert that idea into a successful, scalable product, process, or service, you need to have people who have different expertise, who can chip in to bring the whole thing up into a stage, onto a platform, and take it off from there. So collaboration and networking is the core. Do not believe I can do it alone. You can bring it to a level. What after that? Collaboration and network works. Business skill. Business skill is so important because you need to make sense, commercial sense out of your idea. So business skill is very important. I'll move on to the next slide. This is a list of aspects that as an entrepreneur you would always need. First, passion. You need to be passionate about your idea. That will be your only motivation, because believe me, when you start something which has never been tried before, there are a lot of people who will come and tell you, oh, it's a stupid thing. Don't burn your fingers. It will never work. You need to be passionate to avoid listening to them and move forward with your ideation, with your own conviction. Mentoring is one of the most important aspects. Somebody may have done something or been through a stage of life. Look for that person, look for that expert. The idea may be yours, but the experience of doing things practically would always help you. So find a mentor. Idea protection is one of the core. A lot of people have burned their fingers. They share the idea with an excitement that I would get some fun, or I would find investors, or I can scale it up, and the idea has been taken away from them and they can't do anything about it. There are a lot of legal protection available for you. Must do that before you move to the next level. The options are patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. There are legal experts. There are experts who practice this. Find one. Collaboration, I've already mentioned. Business plan, a must. You cannot say that I have all of it in my mind. Believe me, when you are stressed out, that thing doesn't come in the forefront and will not be able to support you. You need to have it on a platform, on a paper, or on your laptops. Financial plan, another deadly requirement. No, financially, when, at what stage, how much money, how much return on investment, where can I get funds? Financial plan is absolutely important. Bright ideas, brilliant ideas have failed because of the lack of financial support or a lack of financial planning. Investor is your best friend if you are starting off as an entrepreneur. Doing business on your own money, not a good idea. Find a good collaborator who would invest on your idea. He earns, she earns, you earn. That's the best business model in today's world and future too. Handholding with a mentor, handholding will be such an important aspect in your life when you're an entrepreneur or a startup. Pressure handling, I've already spoken about AQ. I'll quickly move forward. This is the last slide. You need to understand certain terms. A startup incubator, you must have heard so much about incubation centers. It's a very common term whenever you talk about startups. Incubation center or a startup incubator is basically a collaborative program supported by government. A lot of private incubation centers are being created. It's a centralized workspace which has all it requires, the support to take off your idea into a commercial angle or into a converting into a business model. For example, it provides you workspace. It provides you the initial pocket money or the seed funding to take off that idea into a product, process, or service. It provides you with expert mentoring and the required training. Believe me, an idea without the training will fall flat. You need to be trained on processes to take it from an idea stage into a business model. Connect with incubators. You will find incubators. You Google for them. Find good incubators who are registered or part of the government list. You will be safe there. Find the available in your region. Connect with the government. There are a lot of schemes floated by the government to support entrepreneurship, and government is trying to promote doing your own business, providing employability to people rather than looking for employability. So there are a lot of schemes by the government which will help you financially, support, space. Find one. And with that, you can actually convert your idea into a successful business model. Probably we're looking for another big company, and believe me, it could be another one amongst you. Best wishes from me. Before I go, I need to thank and compliment Mr. Carlisle McFarlane and his team for doing all he is doing for the students, for his vision, for the way he is dedicated. I want to thank Mr. Hitesh Keswani for putting this together, for inviting me onto this forum, and for all the things that he's doing for the students. I'm sure I know he's quite popular with you guys as Mr. Hike. And thank you all for your patience. You can connect to me outside this forum. My contact details is with Mr. Hitesh Keswani. In terms of any hand-holding, any kind of further information you need, I'm always available for all the La Martiniere students. All the best, take care, and bye-bye.
Hello everyone, welcome to Le Martiniere Careers Fair 2021. This session is on business management, and our eminent expert for this session is Mr. Siddharth Banerjee, a man who needs no introduction in the corporate world. However, I'll still request Abhigya to give a brief introduction of him to the audience.
Mr. Siddharth Banerjee is an alumnus of Le Martiniere College, Lucknow, and holds BA Economics Honours and MBA degrees from the University of Delhi. He has coupled this with exec education from ISB Hyderabad, IIM Ahmedabad, and the Harvard Business School. He is a National Talent Scholar and a Chevening Fellow at the University of Oxford, a digital evangelist, and an award-winning marketer with over 21 years of international business experience. He has lived and worked across India, Singapore, the UK, and Sri Lanka. Mr. Siddharth is the Managing Director for Pearson with a mandate to strengthen Pearson's direct-to-consumer strategy and digital proposition in India, and to build a direct relationship with the higher education ecosystem across the Asia region. Mr. Siddharth is the best-selling co-author of Speechless and 52 Red Pills, a regular at marketing jury panels, and a top-ranked keynote speaker at industry conferences across APAC. It is our pleasure to interview today.
Thank you so much, and always a pleasure to be with fellow Martinians.
So on behalf of the boys of Le Martiniere College, it is our pleasure to interview you. May we request you to please share with us your illustrious journey towards becoming the Managing Director of Pearson.
So I think the foundations were laid strong and enduring at my entire schooling, which I did at Le Martiniere, Lucknow. I think the principles that I have learned in terms of academic excellence, co-curricular excellence, and then camaraderie and leadership. I think these are some lessons which have stood me in great stead as I have traversed my career to the role that I currently occupy. And I think if I had to tell, one thing which might be useful for my fellow Martinians, it's that use the full opportunity that Le Martiniere gives each one of us to look at all facets of developing ourselves, being, of course, very strong academically, but also being complete in terms of having an outlook towards life, which embraces co-curriculars, sports, and a general sense of knowing how to operate with people. And I think that's the best advice that I have got, which I would like to pass on for Martinians of the future.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, earlier the charm, dignity, and gravitas of an MBA degree was such that it used to be almost guaranteed to placements and subsequent career growth. However, this does not seem to be the case today. What is your take on that?
I think if you look at India, the way India has evolved over the last couple of decades, the choices that today's students have in India have exploded. So, in my times when I was in school, there was still this whole fascination about doctors and engineers and MBAs, etc. I think we are in a better place today where the choice set for young students has expanded. And I think that's fascinating because that is the true sign that people can live up and play up to their own unique strengths and to their own unique potentials. So I think while an MBA from a college which has great faculty, a great track record, great alumni is still very much in demand, I think the good news for students is that you can now explore many different possibilities in life. And again, as a school that encourages exploration of yourself, I would urge each and every Martinian to look at understanding their own unique strengths and then to play to their strengths as they think about their higher education and their career.
So thank you so much for highlighting the importance of finding niches. So there are several of our boys who have a decent family business in various sectors. So in your opinion, are skills and experience in that particular business sufficient, or are formal qualifications like BBA, MBA, CA, CS, etc. are still important?
I think I've had the privilege and the fortune of having friends at Le Martiniere from very many different backgrounds. And that's one of the fascinating pieces of being at Le Martiniere. where you can have friends and colleagues from very different backgrounds. But I think one thing stays uniform, whether it was when I graduated out from school in 1995 or if it is today with you guys, which is that I think there is a certain value to learning continuously. And I think whether you come from a business background or a corporate background or any kind of background, I think formal learning, which plays to your strengths, will hold you in great stead throughout your life. So there might be certain advantages of coming from a certain background, but I think everyone should figure out what is that formal bit of learning which you can formally do, let's say in a higher education institute, but also informally do in terms of upskilling yourself as you go along life. So I'm a great believer in constant learning, in constantly reinventing oneself. And I would encourage young students also to think about those facets as you go through life.
Sir, in your opinion, keeping in mind the new normal, what are some of the skills that our boys who are willing to join the corporate sector should look into?
I think foundational skills, whether it's the corporate sector or any other sector, the foundational skills that I would say are as follows. And I think even the foundation of the foundation is be super curious. If you are super curious, you will figure out a lot of things by yourself. In today's digital world that we live in, there is a huge access to resources that we had, which we never had maybe about a decade or 2 decades ago. You can go and tap into museums, you can go tap into libraries. All of that is available today on the internet on a click of a button. So I think be super curious. That's the fundamental underlying advice that I would give. In terms of specific skills, there are a couple that I would call out. The first is that be very clear in terms of the value of crisp and powerful communication. It's something that I learned at Martiniere. I have great respect for 2 of my teachers at Martiniere, Mrs. Mary McFarland and Mr. Elton D'Souza, who shaped me when I was at Martiniere in terms of clear, powerful, persuasive communication. So I think that's one skill that I would call out. The second skill that I would call out is fluency with technology. The ability to understand not only a Google search or building a website, but also how to glean information, because there is information overload. But how do you use technology to make your life simpler, not overload yourself with information that can pour out literally from every corner? And one of the productivity hacks that I learned very early on is knowing how to type fast, right? So I know, of course, in your generation, you probably also do voice, which is voice notes or voice searches, but the ability to type fast is an interesting one for you to think about. And the third piece that I would call out is that I'm an avid reader since I was in school at Martiniere, and I continue to avidly read. And I think that's a great piece of advice that I could give to anyone and everyone who's listening in. Because when you read, you learn from some of the best in the world. When you read, you learn from the mistakes of the past, and you necessarily don't make them yourselves. When you read, you also learn from some of the lessons that have been successful somewhere else, but which can be applied to your context. So I think those are some of the skills that I would call out for my fellow Martinians.
Sir, the corporate life in probably movies and TV shows is often very cliche. So could you please juxtapose the corporate life in reality to the ones which are there in movies? And how does the day-to-day life of the corporate sector look like?
So I think there might be very many different images that people have when they think about corporate life. But I think I would talk about 3 aspects of it. The first aspect of it is almost like a private detective, almost like a Sherlock Holmes, if you may, where you are literally finding out, how can I understand consumers? How can I understand a person, whether he or she is shopping for a detergent powder or shopping for a soup or shopping for a telecom connection? How can I understand their needs better? So the role of consumer insights. So a lot of time, we as corporate professionals spend time in understanding consumers. So think of that in the role of a hat of a Sherlock Holmes. The second aspect of corporate life is to understand how to weave that into business propositions, into things that create value for the consumer, but also for the organization that you're working on. So that's almost like a hat of a businessman. And you can think of any famous businessman, whether it's Jeff Bezos or whether it is anyone of our contemporary generation. So there is a Sherlock Holmes, there is a Jeff Bezos as a business hat. And then there is a hat of saying, how can I really bring change in the world? So that's to do with purpose. So think about the fact that in the corporate world, there are brands and those brands stand for something. And can you figure out how to give a voice to the brand that makes a change, a positive change in the world? So I think these are three aspects of corporate life, especially which appeal to me, and I think which give me great positive energy that I wanted to share with our audience.
Thank you so much, sir. So according to you, what are some of the major pros and cons of a career in business management?
So I think, like I started out by saying, each one of us needs to recognize our own internal motivations, our own internal talents, our own internal strengths, and then play to those strengths. So for people who come into the corporate world, I would say the pros are that it's a fascinating journey every day. It's a fascinating new discovery every day. As you meet with consumers, you're developing new business models, you're looking at what's your positive impact to the world. And I think there is great joy in these three aspects. So it's a very fast moving car, if you may, or a journey, if you may. The cons can be depending upon what you take as cons. So, it's fast. So you've got to get used to a certain pace. It's ever changing. So you've got to get used to constant flux and constant change. It's never really the same. There are many careers in the corporate world which take you to different countries and different cultural contexts. If you enjoy that as a global traveler, you will enjoy that journey. So my corporate career has taken me to 35 countries and counting, and I've enjoyed that journey, finding out about different countries and cultures. So I think for me, I see the glass half full, or maybe more than half full. So I've completely enjoyed my journey in the corporate world for the last 2 decades plus, and I continue on that journey learning something new every day. So that's really the thrill and the magic of perhaps being in the corporate world for me, which might be useful for our audience to think about.
Thank you so much, sir. Our final question to you is, what is your advice to the students who are looking forward to making a career in business and management? And what is your message to their parents?
So I think I'll maybe repeat a few threads. And a message to parents is, let your child or let the student help them figure out what really plays to their strengths, because each student is rather unique. And I think we spend some part of our lives playing, of course, according to a script. But the earlier we find ourselves and our strengths, the better off we are. That's the message to the parents. To the students, a couple of repetitions here. First, be insanely curious and keep learning every day. Second, develop your unique skills, but 3 skills that I have found very, very useful through life, not only student life, but also professional life, is the art of effective communication, the ability to pick up a good book and read almost every day, every week, and the ability to mine information using technology in otherwise an era of information overload. And I think the final thing that I will advise young Martinians is that also build some everlasting friendships. La Martiniere has been lucky for me that I've got some super good friends, and they continue to be my friends through so many years. So just enjoy the journey, build great learning for yourself, find yourself, and also build some great relationships and friendships.
So on behalf of Martiniere College, Lucknow, we extend our heartiest gratitude to you for sparing your valuable time and speaking with the boys of our college and their parents. We are sure that your inspiring journey and your words of wisdom would have left an everlasting impact on our audience today. Vive Martiniere. Thank you so much.
Thank you to both of you for taking the time to speak to me this evening. And I wish all my fellow Martinians the very best right now in these rather uncertain times, but also in life. Cheers.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.